Welcome to Moments with Marianne. This is your host, Marianne Pastana, and I am so excited to be celebrating 10 years of meaningful conversations with you. As we step into our new primetime hour, it's such an honor to share this exciting new chapter with you. So whether you're starting your day out, headed to work, or listening from wherever you are, this hour is designed to bring you thoughtful dialogue, fresh insight, and inspiring stories so you can make every moment count. So thank you for being here with me today, and let's dive in. We're here today with special guest, Ellen Dee Davidson, who's here to share with us her Silver Nautilus award-winning book, Sacred Forest Bathing: The Healing Power of Ancient Trees and Wild Places. What if the greatest medicine for stress, clarity, and healing has been quietly growing all around us all along, and the ancient forests have been waiting for us to return? Well, today's guest is here to share with us just that. Ellen Dee Davidson spends most of her time exploring the healing qualities of being in nature, especially redwood forests. Her odyssey began when the old-growth tree in her backyard started visiting her in dreams. So welcome to the show, Ellen Dee Davidson.
Thank you for having me.
Oh my goodness, what a great honor it is to have you here again and to talk about this book. What inspired you to write this?
Honestly, I think it was the trees. I didn't want to write another book, and I was happy off in the woods, but I would meditate with these old trees, and every single time I kept seeing this book. So finally, I sat down and wrote about the healing and mystical and scientific properties of ancient redwood forests.
Oh, there's so much beauty there, and people can feel the energy when you're in the redwoods. How did you decide, or how did you come to understand this really deep connection that we have with ancient forests and how it helps us with our personal healing?
I think that evolved over time. The first thing that happened was 33 years ago, we moved into this house with an old growth redwood behind the yard. And suddenly that tree was coming into my dreams. And I just couldn't believe it. The tree was showing me all sorts of things. I thought it was just me and my imagination, and the tree represented a part of myself. Only then, scientists like Suzanne Simard started discovering and proving things about the way trees communicate with each other and through the mycelium at their roots. And honestly, the tree had been at night in my dreams showing me fungi. And all that added up, and I thought, wow, the world is a lot more magical than we can imagine.
Oh my goodness. And there's so much interesting discoveries that are happening around trees and the music they play. And as you talked about, the connection. When you talk about sacred forest bathing, what is that? And how does that really kind of differ from just being outdoors?
Well, forest bathing, the Japanese have studied it for a long time, and they call it Shinrin Yoku. And they've proven that spending time in forests lowers blood pressure, cholesterol, speeds wound healing, improves sleep, reduces anxiety and depression, and all kinds of other health benefits. Even spending as much as a weekend once a month will continue the benefits for 30 days. So I didn't know about that when I ran off to the forest. I'd never heard of any of it. It wasn't really popular knowledge yet, but I did experience my own personal healing from a decade of severe fibromyalgia where I was in pain. I couldn't sleep. I caught every cold that came down the pike. I was exhausted all the time. And I didn't go to the forest thinking that would happen, but it did. I'm all well now. I feel better than ever.
Oh my gosh, that's just so remarkable. Yeah, I love how your book really blends the scientific research and your personal experience and spiritual insight. How did you approach bringing those perspectives together?
I don't know. It just sort of organically evolved as I was writing. That was the story I had to tell. So it wove together. And I think people have been telling me that when they read this book, they end up feeling that sense of peace and it's very relaxing. So I'm happy to hear that.
Do people tend to feel like a deeper connection to the forest around them and trees when they read your book?
I've been told by numerous people that they do. And there are some techniques I share, such as taking out ear pods, don't listen to music. If you're with somebody else, walk separately, give some space so part of the time can be in silence. Because to get the full benefits, we want to be as present as possible. And I guess that's why I use sacred in the title. um, Entering with the same sort of reverence we would enter in the most beautiful cathedral we've ever been in. A true holy place allows us to be in the receptive state of consciousness that opens us up to more benefit.
I'm so glad that you mentioned that because I think a lot of people would go, "Well, how do I listen to the trees? How do I know if I'm having a communication with them?"
Yeah, the first thing is just being quiet and not having a preconceived idea or expecting some. Don't read my book and think what happened to me is what will happen to you. There's no recipe. It's always an individual relationship. The same as if we fall in love with somebody, we're going to have our own relationship, not somebody else's relationship. So, the first thing is to be really open and pay attention. And we do that a lot through our senses, what we're seeing, feeling, touching, smelling, tasting. That is a doorway into an expanded state of consciousness.
So, can you share one example of sacred forest bathing that our listeners can kind of grasp a better understanding of what that's like?
Well, I think anyone that walks into a forest, any forest, or even a wild place, will feel a sense of peace. Intact natural environments have a certain harmony, a harmony of color and scent and visuals. So if we quiet ourselves and walk into a wild place, and in my case, it's a redwood forest, there's a sense of peace that comes over us and calmness and stillness. And that allows us to start noticing things, the flowers and the birds and the sound of the water. And with that, the wonder that most of us felt as children naturally returns. So I guess that's something I could say.
Well, that's such a beautiful place to be in, having that awe and that wonder as a child, especially when we're around something as majestic as a redwood. I mean, they're unreal.
Yeah, they really are. And it's so amazing to be in trees that have been here for 2 or 3 thousand years, in forests that have been here for millions of years. And actually, the whole energy and interrelationship of the forest continues that feeling from millions of years because the trees, the root systems, the trees grow out of those same root systems. So there's a timelessness when we're in a redwood forest. It gives some perspective about our own lives to be in a place that's hasn't been changed or altered or damaged by human beings for millions of years.
Isn't that the truth? I mean, how would you say that your connection with, trees or maybe a specific tree has just like evolved over time?
Well, this is going to sound a little bit goofy and out there, and maybe it is, but at this point, I have half a dozen trees that I sit with regularly. Usually, I hike about 4 miles into the trees, and then I have these places I sit and get really quiet. And honestly, I feel like the trees know me. they seem to be really aware. So whether or not that's true, I can't prove. Maybe one of our scientists will over time because a lot of the stuff that I was dreaming has been proven. But there's a sense of belonging and familiarity, and I kind of feel like it goes both ways.
It sounds like just such a beautiful place to be in, especially when you've had such a profound healing take place. I mean, there's something there.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm not the only one. And that is science and that is proven. So,
Oh my goodness. I mean, we live in such a world where so many people feel so disconnected from nature. And a lot of them, I think, are, I mean, and it maybe even me at times, disconnected from ourselves because we're so busy with devices and handling all the busy work. So, how do we approach just being in a, how do we approach, maybe what's the best way to approach someone to build or maybe rebuild relationship with nature?
well, we can start with our own bodies. Our own bodies are nature. And one thing I've noticed about being on computers or all the AI that surround and the screens and devices is they really put us in our mental body. We're up in our cerebral selves. And I know time can go by for me so fast that I've been sitting there for hours and then I get up and realize my body's stiff, my neck hurts. So taking regular breaks to just tune in. Am I hungry? Am I thirsty? What do I smell? How does my body feel? Maybe step outside, or if you have a house plant or a pet, just take a moment periodically throughout the day to reground into the physical plane reality where we actually are. It seems important to me.
For those folks that find themselves in what we would call the concrete jungle, where and there's not really green space around, there's no really trees, there might be a park pretty far away. How can they start integrating this relationship with nature again?
First off, getting a house plant and tending that house plant. There was a really old book called The Secret Life of Plants, and the plants would electronically scream when someone even thought about cutting them. So these plants are aware. So start a relationship with a house plant or maybe a pet or with the water that we're drinking. Bless it and really feel the properties of that water or the food we eat. There's no getting away from nature. We're all breathing air, drinking water, eating food. So it's just, and I really believe that we all will be healthier as we plant more trees and green up our urban areas because they've proven, they did a study in Baltimore where violent crime reduced in neighborhoods that had more trees. They started planting trees. We could also start creating more community gardens, local and small, in old parking lots could be ripped up that are no longer in use or whatever. So our health, mentally, physically, and in terms of our communities will improve as we bring more nature into our environments.
Well, it's just astounding to hear about that research and how that makes such a difference. What other research in your book would you like to share with us?
Oh, I don't know. I had a lot. One fun fact. This is silly, but trilliums, these beautiful white flowers that just are so pure and beautiful in the forest. Some places they're pink, but in the forest they're usually white. They only blossom after 9 years from the seeds, and the ants have a hand in it. They love the sweet coating on the seeds and will carry them far, like 10 feet, I think it was, to their little ant holes and dig them down. And in a way, the ants are helping us plant those seeds, and some of those trails are just lined with trilliums. That's not exactly research as far as healing properties of redwoods, but it's just so beautiful to think of how nature works together, where the ants are helping the flowers bloom, and it's just everything is uh, part of the whole, as are we.
I love hearing stories like that that share how interconnected we all are. We're all part of this massive fabric that creates humanity and nature and the planet we live on. And I thought your book really brought so much just wisdom with it. One of the things you talk about, and we kind of discussed a little bit earlier, is how ancient trees have stood for centuries. And man, have they survived some challenges. What do you believe they can teach us about resilience and adaptability?
How it's a community event. The redwood trees are much healthier when they're in an intact group of forest, and their roots are really shallow, 6 to 10 feet deep, for these monumental trees that are 300 feet tall, and yet they're held up because their roots are entangled and entwined and can stretch for miles. And I think that's a good analogy for all of us. We can hold each other up.
Well, in your book, you share about intuition and your experience. And I know many readers nowadays and listeners are very curious about intuition and the experiences that you describe in nature. So, how can someone be more aware of their own intuitive connection with nature and the nature world?
I'm going to go back into our relationship with our bodies. For a long time in Western culture, we've had this mind over matter idea, and we've sort of split. When in reality, our instincts and our intuition are coming from our bodies. Our cells have trillions of atoms, I think it is, and they're all picking things up all the time. So our bodies are much more aware than our minds. Our bodies are picking up, say, 11 trillion bits of information, and about 11 pieces of information come to consciousness. So intuition is more like tuning into our whole selves, not just the mind. And I would say one of the reasons nature helps open us up so much is if we're really in awe of the beauty, which most people are when they get into these places, we stop thinking about ourselves and everything going on in our lives and all our worries and cares or plans and projects, and we're just there, uh, looking and feeling and sensing. And in that just there-ness, there's a settling into our own bodies. And so we expand into our wholeness. And that wholeness is where we're picking up so much. That's my theory of intuition, of why we receive so much more when we're embodied, and especially embodied in a wild place.
And it's interesting. I think when people hear sacred forest bathing, they may think it's like I have to spend a lot of time or just only by certain trees. But it sounds like it's such a deep connection with nature that can take place anywhere.
Absolutely. I mean, we are nature, and that's really important to remember. So we've always got nature with us wherever we are. And whatever helps people tune in, it could be simple as a cat or a dog. It doesn't, or it could be the cherries and peaches that are ripe right now. We just need to get here, all the way here, and sort of out of our heads for a little bit to really experience the full sensual joy of being alive.
Well, I love how in your book you really interweave mythology and spirituality and ecology. Why do you believe these traditions still have an important place in modern life?
That's a great question. I think I stumbled on that because I was taking classes on goddess mythology and found out there were all these forest goddesses from traditions around the world, basically everywhere that there's a forest. And I think human beings have always had a certain amount of reverence for trees. In many parts of the world, we evolved with trees in that shelter and those environments. One thing I noticed about spending time in intact, never harmed ecological environments, in those places, I felt into my own wholeness. The parts of me that have not been traumatized, are not stressed, and have belonging. And I think that's available really to all of us to find our wholeness. No matter what we've been through, there's a part of us that is intact and is whole. And we can reach into that core part of our spirits, and it's very healing. It helps if we're in intact environments because then we're surrounded by something whole and unbroken.
I love how in your book you've got these force guidance, and one stood out to me particularly. And you said, when I'm in nature, I often feel that my prayers are heard better, like an extra good phone connection. Can you share on that for us?
It really does feel that way. And often they actually come true or happen at surprising speed, which if it hadn't repeated so many times, I wouldn't believe or I'd chalk up to coincidence. I don't know. It feels like there's a lot of mythology around the world about how trees connect heaven and earth, or they have Yggdrasil as the Norse tree that connects the nine worlds. So many traditions have the tree connecting, the Celtic ones do too, the above and the below. And we know the roots are in the ground. There's the trunks stretching up through the middle world, and we have the branches sweeping the sky, touching the heavens. So I think there is kind of an energetic connection between life on earth and the heavenly realms. And maybe that's why I felt like my prayers were more answered from the trees.
Well, it sounds like such a sacred spot. Is it important for us to find like a special place to be in nature or that we can get to that we can really develop a relationship with?
Absolutely. And I think it's good for people to find one as close to home as possible. It's great to go on vacation and see some amazing thing. Like I might go to the Grand Canyon, which is far away from me, but I need something that I can go to regularly. And for me, that's redwoods. They're close by. But where we don't have it at all, we need to create this for people. And where we can access a park or a tree, a lot of books, I'm older now, and a lot of books when I was growing up, children had their special spot. And it could be a little tree in the backyard or whatever, but I think I think human beings crave having a place where they can connect with the earth, even a rock or a creek, whatever it is, and really go regularly and develop a relationship. Okay.
So, when we look at developing our own relationship with trees, what are some tips that people can use right now so they can start developing a relationship and start sacred forest bathing?
Great question. First, find a tree as close to home as possible that hopefully is in a relatively quiet place, and go visit the tree and just be quiet near the tree without um, listening to music or your phone or your friend, and smell the tree, feel the texture of the bark, open up, ask questions, and then just be quiet and see if a vision, an idea, an intuition, an impulse, or anything comes. And don't worry if it doesn't. Trust that something is coming. Our bodies are picking up more than our minds. So it might come into our fields, and later an aha moment happens. And oh, that tree's really happy growing there. Or oh, that tree wants more water. Or the phytoncides, the aerosols coming from that tree helped me heal, because they do. So just a relationship. And it doesn't have to be with a tree. If someone lives in Arizona and it's rocks, go to a rock, because everything has a sort of consciousness that we can tune into on this beautiful planet.
It seems that it's a lot easier in if we're near them to connect with trees because they're such a living, vibrant thing.
Exactly. And Yeah, they do seem to be aware of us. I told you about those old studies in the Secret Life of Plants where they screamed if we had the intention to cut them. So they're not just inanimate, oblivious beings. They're they have a type of intelligence and consciousness. There's studies that show trees can count, and Douglas firs warn neighboring trees if there's a bark beetle or pests coming to attack them. And then the neighboring trees, and they do this by chemicals, they put out certain aerosols, and then the nearby trees will actually close their outer bark down. They'll tighten it and close it down a little bit so the bugs don't have entry. So plants are intelligent beings too. They don't have a brain and their intelligence is not centralized like ours is.
There's so much there. I've even heard that trees can recognize people.
Yeah, and the color of your shirt. If you have a red or a blue shirt, they've done studies. They do that by the infrared rays or something. I've also kind of don't have all the details at hand of that study, but yes. And part of that probably is their own evolutionary survival, what they've needed to grow and protect the forest and each other. I think they're more of a forest, done that more to protect the whole forest. The forest seems to act as one organism more than individual trees.
Oh my goodness, Ellen. I mean, congratulations again on your Nautilus Book Award. I mean, what an accomplishment. And I heard you had so many other book awards as well.
Thank you. Yeah, I was thrilled.
Where can our listeners go to connect with you, learn more about your work, and be part of your community?
I have a website, www.ellenddavidson.com, to find my books. They're everywhere online. They can be ordered through local bookstores or through Inner Traditions.
Well, Ellen, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Ellen. It's been such an honor to spend this time with you and to talk about your Silver Nautilus award-winning book, Sacred Forest Bathing. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You're listening to Moments with Mary Ann, where we make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Mary Ann is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Mary Ann will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmaryann.com for more information.